It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant pride.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Thursday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. I am John Schmeelk, joined by Jonathan Casillas. Here in our podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. That's our phone number here. We'll talk some Giants football with you. Giants, JC, getting ready to take on the Chicago Bears. The Bears come into this game just over 500. They're at 5-3. Giants come into this game at 2-7. And JC, when I took a deeper look at the Bears, and by the way, before we get into this, let me just say one thing before we start. Just terrible news out of Dallas this morning with Marshon Neland apparently committing suicide, if the police reports are accurate. And, you know, he had two teammates on that team, Solomon Thomas and Dak Prescott, who had family members that dealt with suicide as well. They both have, you know, Dak wears the thing, asks for help on his wristbands all the games, and Solomon Thomas has a foundation with the hotline for help. So, guys, if you someone that you know that you think needs some help, just ask them how they're doing. So, it's just awful news down there. Just 24 years old, second-round pick last year, good football player, but better person for what everyone says about him. So, just awful news down there from Dallas.
It's terrible news, man, and I literally just heard on the way in about the reason why. Saw the news this morning, man, and it's just terrible, man. And, you know, I'm very concerned, man, because I've had the four teammates from Tampa pass away, you know, Doug Martin being the last one, and Neland, and mental health is so rough right now, and I don't know what to even say about it, Schmeelk, man. It's
I mean, I don't think there's anything to say. Just, you know, if you just ask people you love how they're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
And see if they need help.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say besides that. It's just awful news, and it stinks. It really does. Anyway, we're here to talk football, so that's what we'll do. As I was saying, Giants head into this game 2-7. JC, Bears head into this game at 5-3. And the Bears so far this year, they've beaten some teams that, frankly, are not very good. They've beaten the Dallas Cowboys. They've beaten the Las Vegas Raiders. They've beaten the Washington Commanders. They've beaten the New Orleans Saints, and they've beaten the Cincinnati Bengals. Not one of those teams are over 500. All of them are at least 2 games under 500. So I'm not quite sure what the Bears are. Here's what I do know. Offensively, they are an explosive team.
Yeah.
They make a lot of big plays. They have a dynamic quarterback that can make plays off schedule and on schedule. They have a very talented wide receiver core. They have a couple of good tight ends. They have 2 good running backs. DeAndre Swift missed last week. They didn't skip a beat with Kyle Monangai. Ben Johnson, their head coach, is one of the better offensive coaches in the National Football League. He uses a lot of under center stuff, a lot of play action, run it, throw it down the field. They're a very, very good team. Folks, they're 5th in the NFL in plays of over 20 yards this year. And they do it through the run. They do it through the pass. So, JC, this is a Giants defense that has had issues giving up explosive plays. So that's where I think I start in this game, just because of the way the Bears are. And the Giants are going to have to slow them down, especially in the run game. They like to run the perimeter too, and prevent some of those explosive plays this week.
Yeah, 100%. They ran the ball, I think, 37 times last week, and a couple weeks ago they ran the ball 40 times. So this is a team that wants to establish that physical presence, and they have a quarterback who can make all the throws. You know, he was the number 1 pick for a reason. He's very creative in the pocket. You know, he can deliver the ball downfield. He extends plays to 6, 7, 8 seconds and creates opportunities downfield, and he's willing to throw those deep balls. And they have capable wide receivers. I know Ndunze's on the questionable list. Swift is a really good running back. He was out the last couple weeks. Monangai didn't skip a beat. Downhill, very physical running back. Not really on the outside. That's more of the perimeter runs that Ben Johnson puts together for the receivers and Brown and what's the receiver name?
DJ Moore.
Zacchaeus as
Oh,
well. Yeah. I said Brown. I meant DJ Moore and Zacchaeus on the outside. Monungai's a downhill running back, a very physical guy. Got his first touchdown last week. A Rutgers guy too, just a couple years ago.
I really liked him coming out. He's
Yeah.
a good player. He's low center of gravity. He's got good quick side to side. He's not the fastest guy in the world, not the most powerful guy in the world, but he knows how to get yards and find space.
Yeah, I mean, you could have deceived me with that powerful because he looks very powerful.
Right.
He runs through guys.
He's a physical runner for sure.
Yeah, puts his head down and gets those extra tough yards. And this offense can be very dangerous. Especially when their defense starts to take the ball away like they did in the Saints game. They rolled off I think 4 wins straight until the Ravens put them in their place a little bit. But this is a team, man, that's an opportunistic team. They find a way to get the football in their hands on defense with interceptions, stripping the ball out. They have some really good pass rushers. So the Giants will have their hands full this week up in Chicago.
All right, so let's go to the defensive side of the ball, and I think you hit it. And we'll get to their weaknesses in a second where I think the Giants can attack them. But on defense, where they're dangerous, JC, and you said it, it's their turnover differential. They're plus 13 in the National Football League. They're number 1 in takeaways. They've 13 interceptions and I believe 6 fumble recoveries. Going off the top of my head, I could double-check that number, but I believe that's correct. And they know how to go after the football. They'll play a variety of coverages. They play a fair amount of man-to-man, but they'll play a lot of zone 2, a lot of cover 2, a lot of single high stuff as well. So they'll really mix it up on defense in terms of what they're trying to do. They are a little banged up in the secondary. And look, we saw what the Bengals did to them last week. Joe Flacco threw for 470 yards. Let me say that number again. 470 yards. That's a ridiculous number.
Lost.
And they still managed to lose because they're the Bengals. And look, we'll get to the weaknesses in a second. But first and foremost, JC, what are the characteristics of a team like the Bears, and I'm sure if you watched them, that are good at taking the ball away? What do the Giants have to be careful of?
Well, I mean, first of all, the middle linebacker has 4 interceptions. So, that tells me he's a guy. I mean, he has a lot of experience in this league. I don't know what year he's in, but he's been in the league for a significant amount of time.
Yeah, Edmonds, he's a good player.
And he's a very good player. And when you have a team that runs a significant amount of zone, that usually equates to a lot of eyes on the quarterback, which more opportunities for guys to get their hands on the football for interceptions. And Tremaine Edmonds does a good job in playing that middle read. He does a good job in route recognition. So in situations like that, the receivers on offense have to do a good job in not only catching the ball, but coming back to the football, because these guys are in zone coverage and they understand how to break downhill against some of these routes and these route concepts. So the Giants have to do a good job in being on time in the passing game, getting the ball where it's supposed to be at. A lot of these interceptions come from poorly thrown footballs on the back hip, maybe overthrows, right? So accuracy with Jackson Dart, I don't think struggles with. I think he's a pretty accurate quarterback. Timing though, late passes, they can be intercepted. Overthrown passes can be intercepted. And the thing that I think they do a good job on is getting their hands on a football at the line of scrimmage. This is a team that can do several different things to be able to create the takeaways, and they have a pretty good pass rush with a couple of guys as well.
Now, while they're good at that, and on offense, they're good at getting explosive plays. On defense, well, they give up a fair amount of explosive plays. And I think this is what you have to look for the Giants here when you look at how they're going to take advantage of this Bears defense here, JC. You look at their pass rush, it's not that impressive. They're 20th in the NFL in pressure percentage. They're 20th in sack rate. They will blitz to try to create pressure. Montez Sweat is their best pass rusher. I think we'll probably see him a lot on Marcus Bowe this week if Jermaine Illuminor cannot go. His power against Marcus Bowe does honestly give me some concern because Sweat's a big, powerful guy. But they don't have, they have Dayo Dengbo, Dominique Robinson, Austin Booker outside. Gervon Dexter and Grady Jarrett are good defensive tackles. They're not world beaters. So they're not going to put a ton of pressure on you. And in the back end, Tyree Stevens has had his issues. Nashawn Wright is a guy that couldn't make the Cowboys secondary. Have you seen the Cowboys secondary play this week? That's a problem. Nick McLeod, Giant fans should be very familiar with him. He's their nickel back. They have C.J. Gardner-Johnson back there. Kevin Byard is a good veteran safety, though we didn't practice yesterday. And Jaquan Brisker is a good young playmaker at safety. But this is not a game to me, JC, where you're going to be able to throw a bunch of short passes and get run after catch. This is going to be a game where you're going to have to challenge downfield. To me, the Giants' wide receivers, and if you watched that game last week, Joe Flacco just trusted his wide receivers to win down the field, and he put the ball out there, and they made plays, whether it was Yushivas, Higgins, Jamar Chase, go down the list. This is going to be on the Giants wide receivers to beat these Chicago corners down the field and make those big plays. It's not going to be a check down game. This is not going to be small chunk plays type of games for the Giants offense. They are going to have to get chunk plays through the air if they want to win this game.
Yeah, 100%. And Jackson Dart's willing to do so. I feel like since he's been, in the helm of starting quarterback, he's thrown that ball downfield very consistently. He's a very impressive kid. But the guy's got to come down with the ball, man. I think the last show we did, the Tino counted 19 drops, and then I don't know how many drops it was in the last game, but you got to add
at least 2
to that total. And the guys got to come down with those plays, man. You don't have a lot of opportunities to catch touchdown passes. You don't have a lot of opportunities to catch beautifully thrown balls over the defender's arms. They come, a couple times a year. Dart is going to be a guy that's going to put you in a good situation, but you have to be able to come down with the ball, and that's the recipe. It's less about Chicago, it's less about San Fran, it's more about what the Giants are doing. So I look at the ways they can attack some of these teams, and it's like they have opportunities to do it, but they self-implode. They hit themselves, shoot themselves in the foot. Their defense gets out leveraged. They missing tackles, and then of course, as the game goes on, they kind of get wary a little bit. And the whole E word has been thrown out at all the players this week about the lack of effort. And I'm not going to say it's the effort, but as the games go on, people get a little tired, people get a little frustrated, people get a little complacent, and you see that play happening more and more and more with this Giants team. So I'm not looking at how they're going to attack this Bears defense or what the defense is going to do against the Bears offense. Is can the Giants play mistake-free football? Can they stop beating themselves? Can they stop preventing those guys to run downhill on them? Can they stop preventing the missed gaps and gap integrity to be an issue on the defense? Because I haven't seen them improve on that. We said that as a problem weeks ago. We said that the Saints game. We said that the first Philadelphia game, which they won, and then it was a big problem the second Philadelphia game. It was a big problem in the Denver game in the fourth quarter, and it was a big problem last week. They have to do better on the things that's hurt them this season to improve, because this Bears team, man, no matter what you look at it, they're finding a way to win some of these games, and that's what really matters.
All right, and now let's look at the Bears offense, where I think the Giants can attack a little bit, and then we'll get to your calls at 201-939-4513. We talked about their explosiveness. Agree. There are 2 things here that I think we can look at here for the Giants, JC, that they can attack. They're starting an undrafted free agent from 2024 at left tackle, Theo Benedict. He's taken over the course of this year at that spot. They also have Ozzie Tripolo coming off. He was a second-round pick this year, but he's more of a right tackle than a left tackle. So they're really in a situation here where you can, I think, attack that left tackle spot, whether that's Abdul Carter, whether that's Brian Burns, whether that's Kayvon Thibodeau. I think you can attack that left tackle spot a little bit. And then here's a good stat for you that you'll like. If the season ended today in the next-gen stats era, which I believe either goes back to 2017 or 2019, if the season ended today, Caleb Williams would have the longest average time to throw in the next-gen stat era. And when you watch the games and you watch the tape, it looks right.
Yeah.
He holds the ball. He dances around. Now, he's really good at avoiding sacks.
Yeah.
He's elusive back there. He's quick. He's got good instincts. He's very tough to bring down. But if I'm the Bears and I'm Ben Johnson and I'm talking to my quarterback this week, JC, as athletic and elusive as he is, I'm not betting on it against Brian Burns and Abdul Carter. Those guys will figure out a way to get to you and bring you down.
Yeah.
So, to me, that's the area where, even though the Bears have not taken a ton of sacks this year, they've actually done a pretty good job. They're 8th in the league in terms of sack rate allowed, which is really good. But, yeah, I haven't faced many pass rushers like the Giants. So I think if you can force them to hold the ball a little bit, if you're the secondary, don't let them get the ball out quick, I think this Giants rush should be able to get home and eventually bring down Caleb Williams. So to me, if you want to look for a weakness on the offense that you can attack, that to me is it.
See, but you see it as a weakness, and I think the Bears see it as a strength for them because he's not getting sacked. He is getting some positive yards when he extends the play, and then it's big play potential on the back end because you're covering for 5, 6, 7 seconds, which I've seen. I turned on that tape and I watched last week, and he is running around in the pocket. Yep. And sometimes he's getting the ball downfield, sometimes he take a sack, sometimes he's getting a 1-2 yard gain.
Dude, how about that throw to DJ Moore he made?
I mean, listen, this kid is incredible. Like, his arm talent is ridiculous.
He makes throws, and you're like, how did he do that? Then there are other throws that are easy throws, and he's like airmailing it by 5 yards. So he's a little all over the place.
He is a guy who will make one of the most spectacular throws you would see on the run, and then in the pocket, he would fall down or do something ridiculous, and you're just like, how is this the same player?
I know.
But the big play potential with him is up there with the best of them in the league. You know, he gets creative as he looks down the field. He can put the ball in the places where it needs to be put when he's able to extend plays. That's why it's like it could be an advantage, but it could be a big disadvantage because you're asking some guys for the New York Giants that haven't played significant football on the back end because the Giants are so beat up on defense, especially on the back seven, because you could throw the linebacker position in there as well. The Giants are down to their third middle linebacker, and you know that's a problem. I see that the Giants can, you know, give up a big 60-yard play to one of these really good wide receivers that Chicago has, because Caleb Williams and all of his Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde stuff, the I don't know if it's Mr. Hyde, he's very dangerous when he's able to extend the play, especially when he gets outside the pocket, man. He's a guy that can make all the throws, and these receivers understand that, and they're going deep.
No, you're absolutely right, and it's dangerous, and you have to be careful of those, you know, we talk about the off-schedule plays with Jackson Dart, right? Well, Caleb Williams is that, like, times 5.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, Dart can do things, and Dart does some pretty cool things. Well, Caleb Williams, and this is why he was the first overall pick in the draft, right? Because he can do amazing things. So, you mentioned it, JC, and before we get to the calls, we should go over the injury report very quickly. I'm going to look to see if we have anything from Brian Dable. He usually does a quick stop with reporters on Tuesdays to see if anything came out today. Let's see. I don't see anything from Dan Salamone. Let's see if our guy Dottino has anything from the press conference today, just to see if anything is new in terms of the injury report. Flight events and protocol, waiting for clearance to play. Andrew Thomas getting a load date today. Why did that happen? Flott and Holland looks like they're on their way to possibly coming back to this week. So I imagine everyone else is pretty much the same as yesterday, which I'll just give you the injury report from yesterday then. No Paulson Adebo. That's a big one.
Yeah.
No Darius Musow, to your point. That's also important. I assume we'll see a lot of Flanagan fouls in that spot then. No John Michael Schmitz. And this is, again, yesterday's injury report, folks. No Chauncey Golston again. Graham Gano with a neck. Gabriel did talk today, said they'll take that to the end of the week, see where he's at. And he didn't even commit to who the kicker would be if Gano couldn't go. No Jermaine Illuminor again. I mentioned that earlier. It would be Marcus Bowe again at right tackle. Victor DiMukeje did not practice with the shoulder. So, JC, Flott and Holland, if they can come back, big deal.
Yeah.
But no Adebo, no Darius Musow. And I know Musow has had some not-so-great moments this year. I don't know about you. When you watched the game back, I felt it when he left the game.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, to be honest, you know, Musow, like you said, he has his ups and downs. But he is a guy that I feel like has kind of fit into that role, understanding what the middle linebacker position means. But for me, man, I saw him last week. 41 for the Giants. He's a really good ball player. The middle linebacker for the Giants.
Mike McFadden you're talking about? Yeah.
He's a really good linebacker, and they really miss him.
They miss him. He's always in the gap that he's supposed to be in.
He really understands that middle linebacker, what it means to be the hammer, you know. And I feel like even Musow, he doesn't truly understand that, you know, because sometimes he's making tackles, but they're a little bit too far down the field. He's not downhill enough,
or he doesn't get to a spot and he'll get blocked and sealed off before he gets there.
Yep, and you're seeing that, and a lot of that comes with youth, you know, and that's my concern with this Giants defense, with all of the guys that, you know, at the top of the roster, those guys being out. You have young guys who, you know, have potential, but sometimes they're just a step a little too slow. They're a step a little too wide, and that creates big plays, man, because these running backs throughout the NFL, no matter what team, they're very talented, and they will find that crease. They will find when you're out leveraged. They will find the two guys in one gap and get to the other gap that's open, and that's what you're seeing from the Giants very consistently, man, and that's very concerning for me.
And then for the Bears, again, I don't have anything from them today yet, but DJ Moore and Rome Odunze did not practice yesterday. Now, they didn't practice on Wednesday last week either. Both guys played in the game. Now, Odunze wasn't very effective in the game, but he did play in the game. Grady Jarrett had a Veterans Day. TJ Edwards did not participate. Kevin Byard, the very talented safety who does get some takeaways, he did not participate. Cole Kmet, Kyle Monangai, DeAndre Swift, Roshan Johnson, they were all limited. And then Luther Burden looks like he's on his way back from a concussion. So, again, both teams banged up, but
It's that time of the year, Schmeelk.
these are the dog days a little bit in November, right?
Yep, for sure. Did they have their bye week yet, the Bears?
Yes, they
They
did.
had their bye week. But this is we're past the halfway point. The complimentary, you could say, with the injury reports. Pretty much similar in terms of how many people are participating, how many people are limited participation, and it's really, when we do this show, we do it on Thursdays, it's like, you really don't know who's going to play in the game on
No,
Sunday.
we don't.
And you won't really have an indication until kickoff, and that's the rough part about being on this side at this time of the year, because you want to prepare a certain way for a certain player, but you don't really know if they're going to play. So that's a rough part. But it's a league of who can win with attrition, who could win with the guys that are going down, who could replace those guys step up, the next man mentality, and the Giants have to do a better job at that, man, because you see a guy go out and there's a big drop off, man, and the next guy coming in, and it's not really like that all around the league. You look at San Fran last week. San Fran missing their starting quarterback, their starting middle linebacker, starting pass rusher, and they're still finding ways to win games, man. So the Giants have to do a better job in responding, and guys that are coming in and stepping up, and the guys that are healthy and the guys that the Giants rely on to make plays, they got to show up on Sunday, man.
Absolutely. All right, folks, go check out the Giants Huddle podcast. It's on your favorite podcast platform, giants.com/podcast. The Giants mobile app or on the Giants YouTube channel. Great interviews, Giants players and coaches, analysts around the NFL. And on your podcast platform, it is called the Giants Podcast Network, official podcast network feed. You also get some Hurt playbooks on there. Papa's perspectives are popping up. Bob kind of is doing life after football with a bunch of former Giants. We've had Kareem McKenzie on there talking about trying to get into psychology. Zach Diassi's on there doing wealth management. I think we have Henry Hanoski coming up. He's a high school principal. So just kind of fun life after football stuff for some of these guys. And that's all on the Giants Huddle podcast and the official podcast feed. Make sure you go check that out. And also, draft season went up yesterday. We continue doing our draft shows. We've been doing them since August. And we're doing our risers and sliders on offense. What guys have kind of helped and hurt themselves on the offensive side of the ball in this year's NFL draft. So check all that out. Is this Piho on line 3 or Pijo? I think it's Piho in Montreal. Piho, what's up?
Hey, what's up, guys, man? Yeah, listen, guys. I am a fan of the show, first-time caller, and I love the Giants.
Thanks,
okay?
Piho. What do you got?
I want to say something about Jackson Dart.
Okay.
Because I think Jackson Dart is the best quarterback that the Giants have got since Eli Manning. But we need a better coach, man. We need a better coach, man. Come on, guys. Do you agree with me?
Well, Pio, what I would say is that you got to give the coaching staff credit for having a rookie playing at this level so early in his career. So I think that's the first thing you have to talk about a little bit here, right, JC?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and Daboll was the one that went ahead and vouched for him and jumped back into the first round to get him. And because he jumped back in the first round, you have that fifth-year option.
And by the way,
clutch move.
And by the way, it wasn't just Daboll. If Joe Shane didn't also, and P.O., if Joe Shane also didn't believe in him, they wouldn't have drafted him.
Oh, for sure.
So I think people are like, well, Shane didn't want him. They just drafted him because of Daboll. That's not how this works, folks.
Yeah, no, not at all.
All right, so just FYI, like Joe Shane liked the player too.
Yeah,
just,
but I was trying to
sword.
stick up for Daboll.
No, 100%. No, but I've seen that online.
Oh, I've seen it
just
too.
trying to get
I've
Daboll.
seen it too.
Come on,
Yeah.
And I'll leave you guys with this. Do you really think that this coaching staff and this general manager will survive this season?
Thank you, Pio. Appreciate the call.
That's a good question.
I don't think we're gonna get anything during the year. I would be very surprised by that. And after the season, that's a decision ownership's going to have to make.
Yeah.
We don't know. I'm not going to comment on people's job status here in the building. I see them in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
I don't feel that's our role here. I don't feel comfortable doing it just because I know these guys and they're my friends. So I'm not going to talk about their job status. I understand why fans would think about that. If you guys have a call and you want to give your opinion on it, that's absolutely fine. That's great. That's a decision that the Mara and Tisch families will make when the season's over.
Yeah, and I just think that no matter how the rest of the season goes, and the fans are going to be doing it. And I know you hear it, John, and I'm hearing it too. I just don't think John's trying to make a decision during the season because it's like, all right, let's say they do move on. Who's the guy to come in and be the interim coach?
Yeah, they don't have anyone with a ton of head coaching experience.
So that's a huge
and
question.
Look, and then you're pulling the rug out on your rookie quarterback that you're trying to develop too. So
who has a great relationship with the head coach.
Correct, yeah. So I'm not sure that makes a ton of sense. In terms of him being the guy that is the next best quarterback after Eli Manning, well, you've only had like one since then. So it's not like there's like a long list of guys you're comparing him to. I don't think you're putting, Jake Fromm, Mike Glennon, and Boyle on that list and the other guys. And Tyrod was a good player when he was here, obviously. But look, and Drew Lock, but we don't know yet. And look, I always try to be level-headed about these things, good or bad. And it drives people nuts when I do it and people are like, oh, fire this guy, this player stinks. And I'm like, guys, you got to be patient. You got to wait. So I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to say the same thing about the quarterback that everyone wants to put a gold jacket on and anoint right away, right? What you've seen has been promising. What Jackson Dart struggles with is things a lot of rookie quarterbacks struggle with, and you can get better at those things, and I would expect that he would get better at those things. He has shown a number of instinctual things that I think are hard to teach, JC. Pocket awareness, creativity, keeping your head up, not letting the rush mess with you on the way you're seeing the field. That, I think, portends great things for his future. But look, we've seen full seasons from quarterbacks, like a C.J. Stroud who had a great rookie year, and then it's kind of fallen apart since then. So we have to see what this looks like long term. I think right now you feel good about it. You continue to develop him. You hope he can become that guy that can be your next, franchise quarterback for 10 to 15 years. But even, Coach Dable and Jackson Dart will tell you, there's still a lot to work on. This is not a finished product here. Yeah. All right? And again, you feel good about it, but I don't think we know, quote unquote, know anything yet for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that the things that you listed off are intangibles. And when you look at a quarterback and the reason why they have success for a prolonged period of time, because of course they have the good arm strength. They can throw the football very well. They might be fast. They might not be fast. They have great pocket awareness. But it's all the intangibles that make a really good quarterback good for a prolonged period of time. And he's showing those things, right? The leadership ability that he shows as a young guy who's played in, 7 games now? Is there 7 games for him that he's played in? 6, maybe 7.
Six, right? Zion's played 9 games, and Russ played the first 3. He played his first start was against the Chargers, right?
I know. My daughter, she hates when I do it because now that I understand why the kids do it, I do it all the time. I'm so terrible.
It doesn't make any sense. First of all,
oh no, that's the thing. It doesn't.
It's stupid.
It's really dumb. Yeah, it's dumb.
So now our flag football season the fall's over.
Kids love it though when I do it.
For the past month, when we would do the team hands in at the end. They do the 6-7 thing at the end.
They break it down on 6-7?
Yes, they break it down on 6-7.
No, I just like it. I was doing something here last night.
The best part is
the
that
Giants and the Jets at the stadium. Go ahead.
Last game of the year, I did not let them do it. I'm like, no, we're doing team name the last game of the year. Sorry, kids, we're not doing it. Anyway, go ahead.
So no, because last night we was at the stadium, myself, Sean O'Hara, a couple of the Giants, couple of Jets players too, and one of the kids, he was like, how long do I got to sit out for? I was like, I don't know, like 6 or 7 plays, and you see all the kids turn around like this. 6, 7, 6, 7. I love it, man. It gets me hyped up. And I didn't understand it at first, and my daughter was like, Dad, you just don't get it. And then I just realized it's not for us to get.
No, it's not for us to get.
It's not. And that's the thing. That's why they like it so much.
It is not for us to get.
Right. So I just embraces it. Now my daughter's like, oh my gosh, Dad, you can do this again.
And you're like, yeah, because it annoys you. And if you didn't show that it annoyed you, I wouldn't keep doing it.
Exactly.
That's exactly right. Maybe I should take that tact. And
for sure. Because they do it to us all the time. You're learning.
I'm getting there.
Yeah,
I'm getting there. All right, let's go to line 2. Damian Manhattan's up next. Damian, what's going on?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
What's up, man?
I want to vent. I'm frustrated with the lack of GM moves, I guess. So there's some busts on this roster, and, they're not the first bust, and they won't be the last. But the thing is, why don't we move on from some of these guys? Why don't we trade? Why don't we make trades? It's like when you do a bet on a parlay, right, on an app, every once in a while a cash-out option comes. And this cash-out option every offseason goes lower and lower, and Shane he's going for broke on these guys.
Well, Damian, can you be specific on who you're talking about specifically?
So, all right, so Neal, Banks, Hyatt, specifically the one that really gets to me is Banks. Because
Damian,
this offseason, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you a question. If you were another NFL team, what would you give up for those 3 players?
Right. So I don't really know, right? But I would take a fifth for Banks.
Oh, well, yeah, well, okay, well, that's great. Do you think another team would, at this point, give that up for him?
Right. So I'm not talking about at this point specifically, like the week leading up to the opening week. I was calling this line, and I couldn't get in, like, the entire week.
No, that's okay.
And I wanted to say, like, the moment Flott and Banks are in open competition, I wouldn't even let the word get out. I would try to trade Banks. And you know, I was open to trading Flott, too. In hindsight, Flott would have been great to keep, right? It's good that we kept him. But Banks would have gave you a bigger return than Flott. And, like, as soon as they're in open competition, I wouldn't even let word get out. I would trade him then and there, you know?
Well, Damien, Damien,
it raises your floor.
I completely hear what you're saying. Let me play devil's advocate a little bit with you here. The Giants last week ran out a bunch of players in the defensive backfield, one of which wasn't even on this team opening day. So I understand you want to, you know, if you trade Deonte Banks, what better player do you have available that's going to be able to play?
To raise your floor in the offseason.
No, I understand, but those free agents aren't available in August, though. No, but those free agents aren't available in August.
And also, look, Banks he's a very young player, you know, and it's kind of a sin to give up on a young player, you know, like all young players struggle in the NFL. Some people have higher ways of struggling. Some people don't struggle too much, right? But everybody struggles as they're young players, and they will get better as they progress. Yeah. And if you give up on them after 1 or 2 years, like what type of organization are you running? You're just giving up on players that early, especially when it's invested so much in it. And I hear your point about getting some value for him. That's why you could have did it at the beginning of the season. Yeah. But you get rid of him, then where's the depth? You need depth.
Correct.
You need depth. You need good players.
And
you need good draft
And
picks.
you're not going to find someone with as much natural talent as him. And Damien,
exactly.
I think the two things I'll say is that they hoped that the change in defensive back coach would help him. We haven't seen that. And the other thing, you talk about, once he's in an open competition, then you should have just dealt him. I think you put him in an open competition to light some fire under him. I think that's, and I think JC
exactly where you're going with that.
can speak to this better than me, because I think you want to tell him, look, dude, you better get your you-know-what together. Otherwise, you are going to be out the door. And I think that's, JC, why you do that, right?
Yeah, that's exactly why you do it. You know, every year. Hold on, bro. Hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. I can't hear you if I'm talking, and vice versa. So I was an undrafted guy. I was always not last on the depth chart, but I was lower on the depth chart everywhere I've been. Even when I came here, me and JT Thomas had to battle for the starting job. It made us better. For sure. I was, JT wasn't a high drafted guy. He was like, I think 4th or 5th round. I was an undrafted guy, but it made us better battling at practice. And we became great friends because of that. And we've had good careers. I've had a good career. I had a good career, and you just can't move on past the guy. And then at this point in the season, it's like the guys that you named, what value do they have for the Giants? Now you're just getting rid of a depth piece that could possibly have some type of, spark this year. Because these guys are all young guys still. And I think they still have bright futures in front of them. We just haven't seen it maximized quite yet.
Go ahead, Damien.
Yeah, no, I hear what you guys are saying, but it's just a big signal because, it's all a chance game, right? So like I said, with the betting, your cash out options, they put that on the probability that you're going to hit, and it goes down and down and down. So when he's in an open competition with Flott on his 3rd year, it's like it kind of shows you the probability that he's going to hit. And then you got to know if Flott wins, you're going to re-sign, you're going to extend Flott. So now what is Banks? But if you trade Banks, you open up some cap space, you get a vet free agent, and now that raises your floor.
No, but Damien, here's the problem. This imaginary vet free agent you keep bringing up. Good cornerbacks do not come cheap.
Yeah.
They just pay Paul Adebo $20 million a year coming off a broken leg.
No, well, I mean someone in the caliber of what Flott was considered to be in the offseason, right? Someone who would also be in competition with Flott. Anyways, we're going for broke on a lot of guys is my point.
Well, no, Damon, I appreciate the call and fair points. I think what I'll say is that you have a better chance of getting value out of a player like Banks by continuing to try to develop him, make him a better player than whatever you're going to get from him for him in a trade, is what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, first round draft pick, he was an investment. He's trying to equate it to like trades and stuff like that. You got to really talk about in a way like cars. Like when you buy an expensive car, if something happened to it or it's not performing well, you just don't give up on it. Like you figured something out so you can protect your investment, or a house or something like that. They're not like trades on, like they're more like houses and cars. If you really think about it, if you invested a lot in it, you just don't give up on it because you don't get a return on your investment. You got to get something out of your investment that you put in. Like you're not going to buy out and take $500,000 on $101.5 million house. It ain't happening.
And he mentioned I heard him mention Asante Samuel Jr. Guy just had spinal fusion.
Oh, wow.
I'm not even sure if, he says he's clear now, but I don't know what NFL teams are going to look at those x-rays and pictures and decide if he can play football ever again.
Yeah.
Spinal fusion.
And look, when you look at some of these players, and I'm not even saying he's wrong about what he's saying about some of these players because they got drafted for a reason. Like you look at the film for Banks, you look at the film for Evan Neal and Jalen Hyatt. I think they deserve to get drafted in those spots that they got drafted in. No one can predict how good a player is going to be, right? Because if everybody knew how good Jackson Dart would have been, he would have been a #1 pick of the NFL this year. But people, it's a gamble when you do it. I guess that's why he's bringing up the betting, because it is a gamble, and you got to figure out like how long do you stick with a player. But it's like, do you give up on him after 1 or 2 years? I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, if you trade him I'm just talking hypothetically here. I have no idea what the offers would be or what the Giants would get. I know they weren't looking to trade him. But again, just talking hypothetically. If you get like he said, a round 5 pick for him that you're not going to be able to use until next year, you're trying to win football games this year.
Yeah.
How is that helping you win football games this year? And what's your chance of a 5th round pick hitting?
Yep.
10%? 15%? 20% at best?
Yeah. And you talked about it earlier about the physical attributes that all of these guys possess. It's the reason why they got drafted. A lot of people get drafted because of the potential. I've seen guys who aren't as good as certain players in college, but they get drafted because of their potential, and they actually do hit that maximum potential, and they end up being really good players in the NFL. And that's why you draft a guy in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd round. Right.
And by the way, I think Damian was actually being reasonable with the return. But I think there are, and so Damian, this is not in reference to you. I think you made some good points.
Yeah, he did.
I think some fans imagine that when they look to trade some of the players that they don't want anymore and they don't think are any good, that somehow the other NFL teams haven't watched all the same stuff that you've watched as a fan. Like, guys, the coach's tape, everyone has it. Like, everyone can watch what's going on. You're not going to be like, hey, maybe they just think of this guy as a former 1st-round pick and they don't know how he's played the last 2 years.
They know.
They know how these guys have played the last 2 years, right?
For sure.
They know. So I think sometimes you can fall into that trap.
And the worst part about it is when you really think about it, if the Giants wanted to get a good value for a trade from somebody on the team, it would have had to be one of the better players on the team.
And that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
The guys that are playing really well right now. That's to get the most value out of it. And you can't do that.
There are special attributes. And now, have they manifested themselves into production on the field as much as you would like? Probably not. But Evan Neal has attributes that do not grow on trees. Deonte Banks has attributes that do not grow on trees. Jalen Hyatt has an attribute that does not grow on trees. Speed, right? You don't find guys with those sort of traits just floating around. So then you have to make the decision. Can you get more out of that player? And to your point, that investment, which was day 1 or day 2 picks, by trying to develop them and turn them into better football players here? Or do you get more value bailing on those players and getting back a dime and a dollar?
Yeah.
Which that's ultimately what the decision is. I'm not telling you what the right or the wrong decision is, and I guess he's making the same thing with his betting analogy, but ultimately that's the decision that you have to make.
And to be honest, I play for 4 different teams. When you draft a player, you stick with them a little bit longer. When you draft a player, you stick with them a little bit longer, and it's not about what the outside, fans' perspective is of, oh, he's not playing that well, get rid of him. It's like, I invested in these guys. They are young guys. They are developing. We haven't seen it manifest on the field, but the coaches have seen it. They've seen promise. They've watched the film, right? I'm not saying all of it looks good. I'm not saying they are trending in the right direction, but when you invest in a guy and you personally choose a guy, you did your research, your scouts, you looked at them in college, you watch all the film, and then you bring them in. They're family, and you don't cut them off because they're not playing well at the time. You see if you can give them a little time, and you give them as much time as you can until it comes a point where it's like, all right, we got to kind of move on from this guy.
And look, Evan Neal's been inactive every game this year that there's been enough healthy players to put on the active game day roster. So they're not force feeding him into the lineup is my point, right?
Yep.
They're playing the guys that think are the best players regardless of the draft
And
slot.
he is developing because he's still at practice every single day.
And now he's a guard. He's in a new position too. So anyway, again, that's the decision you have to make when you're kind of evaluating this thing, if you're kind of playing out the game theory of it. Let's go to Scott in New Mexico. He's up next. Hi, Scott.
Hi, guys. How are you doing tonight?
All right,
We're good.
Scott.
First, I want to extend my sympathies to the Neland family, to one of my friends. Unfortunately, suffered from mental depression and committed suicide. And it takes a long time to get over that, so I trust the Neland family will be able to rise above it, and it never goes away, but I wanted to offer my sympathies to their family. My question actually is directed to Jonathan.
Great.
And John, if you want to chime in, you can. I was looking at the Giants' defense and taking the front four, which is Burns, Carter, Thibodeau, and Lawrence. Overall, the team, I think right now has 21 sacks, which sounds okay. But when you look at it compared to the rest of the league, that ranks 16th. You would think with the players they have, it would be a little bit higher. In addition, in the last 9 games, the Giants have only taken or gotten 6 takeaways in 9 games. The last 3 we know about, giving up 192 yards approximately each game, and that's the second worst in the NFL. Jonathan, my question to you is this, and try to be as honest as you can possibly be. If you're a good player, and you were, and you're on a team suffering the kind of misery, I guess, that the Giants have had over the last 3 years, and you're doing your job, but you look around you and some players are not, for whatever reason, whether it's injury or something else, does that mentally grade on you as a player?
Good question.
Because you're going through this year after year, or is the defense a brotherhood and you sort of rally around what's happening even though you're losing? What's the mental drain on a player who's good but looks around and says, we're not doing anything? Do you feel responsibility, or do you feel like you try not to show blame? What's your attitude as a good player when you see the people around you are not performing up to what your level might be?
First of all, that's a great question. You're kind of right on all kind of aspects that you were hitting. The defense, the team itself, the defense specifically, it is a brotherhood, and, I try to give my all every single play that I played, and you do want to hold other people accountable. When you're young, you really don't say too much. You try to go out there and look at the older guys and watch how they play and, respond that way and put your play on the field and show them that you belong in the brotherhood. And as an older guy, when you play, sometimes you can lead by talking, sometimes you can lead by example, sometimes you can lead by emotions, and the Giants just haven't figured out, I think, the right combination of that to get everybody to play at their maximum potential on a consistent basis, because you see it happen, but you just don't see it consistently. And then when guys get hurt, guys are feeling some type of way, and I'm talking about physically, and they're out there still playing. There's a lot of guys that are now in the injury report that are actually not feeling 100%. And you kind of can see that, but you don't know which player it is. I was a guy that stayed on the injury report even though I was healthy. Sometimes I didn't play my potential, and I retired because of that. Like, I retired because I was so sick and tired of, going out there being at 70% and giving it my all, and I'm not even on the injury report because I'm just, healthy, but my knee is not strong, my quad's not strong, right? And look, I'm not specifically talking about anybody. I'm just talking about generally speaking because you directed the question at me. But it's very difficult to be on a team that's struggling and you are having consistent struggles and you are putting in all your effort and you're not getting a return. It's so very frustrating. But the So all you can do as a professional is be a professional every single day, go to practice, work as hard as you possibly can, and hopefully you can figure it all out as a collective brotherhood unit.
Have you been on teams where you saw guys towards the end of the year get frustrated with teammates that they didn't think were still doing that?
Not too much. Not too much. You see it, but nobody really speaks out over it, especially when, a 2-17, it's kind of, I don't even know the right word, but if you're one guy, you're playing, you feel like you're giving your all and you go ahead and, you talk to another guy, there's a play that he can go back to and say, what about that play that you messed up on, right? I think the Bengals had that with Chase Brown. He was criticizing the defense of not stopping, getting off the field. He said, we need to stop, but he dropped the third down pass that game. He did this on that game. Right. So it's like it's hard to say, hey, guys, you got to do your job when nobody in the NFL is perfect. There's nobody that's playing and grading out 100%.
Isn't that, though, the veteran leaders on the defense that, like Brian Burns, to me, Brian Burns at this point, with the way he's played this year, can say whatever he wants to anybody on that defense because he's lived the life, he's hustling, he's doing all the little things and all the big things. So to me, Brian Burns is the guy where you look at this defense, and again, I don't see an effort issue myself. I see an execution issue. But if there's anyone that's going to point out guys that are not getting the job done and you need to get better at something, to me, it would be Burns, just given how he's played this year.
Yeah, 100%. But again, even Burns not perfect either.
No, he's not.
So it's kind of hard to stand there and stand on that. And it's like, bro, you graded out of 70%. What about the other 30% that you didn't play so lights out? You know what I mean? So it's hard to do that when you're just not a perfect human being. And the world is full of imperfect human beings. The game is filled of imperfect players. Sure. Everybody makes mistakes. So it gets to a point where it's like it goes tit for tat. It's like, you gave up on this play. It's like, but bro, you messed up on this play. You know what I mean? So it's like it's hard to do that. What I would say is that as a professional, you come to work, you got to give it your best effort every single day. Not that you can't be worried about somebody else, but they may not be there the next year. You may not be there the next year. And you got to truly worry about yourself and make sure that you are putting your best film out there every single time you step out there.
That makes sense, Scott?
Yeah, and John, I wanted to ask this question of you, and then I'll take it off the air.
Yeah.
You're close to the team. You meet with the players. Basically on the same question, do you get any sense that players are so frustrated at each other that they're losing their continuity to be able to perform on the field, and you see it manifested in the statistics and everything else? Because you're close to the players and can interview them and talk to them, can you really get a real sense of what's going on with, in this case, the particular defense? No, I'll take your answer off.
Thank you, Scott. Well, look, if there is, they're not telling me, and I wouldn't expect them to tell me. I wouldn't want them to tell me, to be totally honest with you. But no, have I noticed that? I haven't. I think the one thing Brian Daboll has done really well since he's been here, if there's the one thing that I think he's done the best, it's he generally keeps the team together. I think he does a good job of keeping this locker room together. They continue to play hard, even though they've had a couple of really tough years the last 2 years. And you don't see that disunity among the players. So I will give him credit for that. I think he's done a nice job with that. In terms of your first point, I just want to hit on this, JC, real quick, because I think some other fans have felt this frustration too. Why isn't the pass rush more dominant? Middle of the league in sacks. I think their pressure rate between 15th and 20th. I didn't check this weekend. Last week I think was 18th. And what I'll say about that is that defense is a complementary group, right? Your pass rush can be great, but if your secondary is allowing somebody to get open right away, it doesn't matter. So, to me, the lack of pass rush, or the lack of pass rush production, I should say, has more to do with the second level of the defense and the third level of the defense allowing quick options for the quarterback to get the ball out. That's not allowing the pass rush to get home. Abdul Carter's pressure numbers are excellent this year. He has a half a sack.
Yeah.
So, even a guy like Dexter Lawrence, his win rate on pass rush plays is pretty good. His pressure rate's not that great, but his win rate's pretty good. Again, quarterbacks are not holding the ball as much as they need them to. So that's what I would say in terms of that from what I'm seeing at least.
But you also got to throw in the scheme, like nobody is untouchable when it comes to a 2-17. You know, it's the players, it's the coaching, it's
yeah,
all of
absolutely,
that involved.
for sure.
It's the scheme, it's all of those things involved. It's opportunistic times to call certain things, right? It's not always about your very dominant defensive line that gets sacks. There's other guys too, right? If you're unblocked as a defensive back, because a lot of times they don't even block defensive backs sometimes, and you don't take the right steps, whose fault is that? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like it's true. It goes. It's a lot deeper than just looking at saying like, oh, this D line is not producing as well, because you just said it. Abdul Carter numbers, his pressure numbers are at the top of the NFL, but he only has a half a sack or 1.5 sacks on the year.
No, 1.5 sack, a half
1.5
sack.
sacks
No,
on the
no,
year.
just a half sack.
If you watch him play the game of football, he is incredible.
No, he is.
He is incredible, but it's about timing. It's about luck, you know, at times, you know, and you know, the Giants being banged up on the back end, you know, that has a lot to do with the production up front, you know, and it's hard to and the quarterbacks that you're playing against too. Like you said against Caleb Williams, if you look on paper, he's holding the ball the longest in the league, but he's only gotten sacked 14 times, which is not that much for a guy that's been holding the ball that long.
And the Giants have played really good quarterbacks this year. Justin Herbert's awesome. Patrick Mahomes is awesome. Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. He does take a lot of sacks. Dak Prescott gets the ball out quick. Jaden Daniels the first week is very mobile, gets the ball out quick. So, yeah, I think that's part of it too.
Yeah.
And I think the last few weeks too, you haven't played with the lead as much. And when you're not playing with the lead, it's a lot tougher to get to the quarterback. So those are all things I'll put in there.
And I think we talked about this last week going into the game against San Fran. You got to knock them off their rhythm. If I'm not mistaken, the quarterback was 14 of 14 to start the game. That is not
ideal.
Is not ideal at all. You know, and that is a combination. It's the pass rush, it's the middle, it's the second level, and it's the third level.
And again, he was 2.48 seconds time to throw in that game.
The ball was getting out of his hands.
If you're getting the ball out in under 2.5 seconds, you can't get sacks. Anyway, we got 2 more calls. Let's get to them. Brandon in New Jersey's up next. Hey, Brandon.
Hey, John. I wanted to call earlier. You guys were talking about, somebody asked about the head coach and blah, blah, blah. And I had just made mention earlier in the week, but I did want to call. It's a little more of an off-season thing, but I just wanted to say a piece real quick. I think we should learn from our mistakes and learn from the past moving forward. I don't know. You know, I could be putting the cart before the horse with Dable, but I do assume unless something drastically changes the remainder of the year that it's only going to end one way. But that leaves, I don't know where that leaves Joe Schoen. I really, as far as the team being 2-7, you guys, this is the best looking, most talented 2-7 team I've seen. It just looks disjointed a lot. So I don't know how much of the record I put onto the – I mean, you got to put some, but I don't know how much I put onto the GM straight away because I see the talent, and you can look at the list of other 2-7 teams in the last 10 years, and not one of those teams compared to this one. And I just think they need to be played a little bit better. So if everything still works out, how it's probably going to work out toward the end of the year, the one thing that I think Dave Gettleman did that I would like Joe Schoen not to do is continue the first-time head coach, or in Pat Shurmur's case, he was a one-time head coach for 1 year. So basically inexperienced head coaches continuing getting a shot. I much prefer, if you guys remember about 4 years ago, Joe Schoen's very first decision was to hire a head coach. Management, the people who have been here, have lived through all of this, or the ownership who's been here lived through all of this, had a suggestion. And probably because they were tired of looking at first-time issues with first-time people, inexperienced people. And our first-time GM went with his way, and I'm glad that the ownership was able to prove that they are not standing in his way. He's making his own decisions. But this was his decision. I hope he learns from this, does not repeat what Dave Gettleman did, because he went from an inexperienced head coach to a first-time head coach. I think that this time around we should heed those warnings, try to get an experienced head coach, and that's where my phone call comes to now. I looked at a list for me. Brandon.
I'm not going to talk about who's replacing Brian Daboll as head coach. It's week 9. Week 10.
Okay. We won't talk about replacements, all right? But I just was staying more or less like a line of where, if anything is to happen, I know it's week 9, John, but, you know, If anything were to happen, I was just saying more or less there's a short list of what would be hires. You don't have to speak on. I'm just saying what would be new hires are the coaches that are in the NFL still that have won, that have winning percentages. There are 13 of them since the year 2000. That should make it very simple on who should be a head. I know you guys can't speak on it. John, when is a good time I can have this conversation with you, though? Because I still do want to have it, just obviously now is not a good time.
At the end of the season.
All right, I'll call you at the end of the season.
Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate the call. Guys, I'm not doing that right now.
You can't.
I can't. I'm sorry. I can't. I can't.
No, not at all. But
and Brandon, I appreciate the call.
The beginning.
And I know you're thinking about this stuff, and I appreciate it, but I can't do that conversation right now. I'm going to have Brian Dable in this room tomorrow at 7 a.m. to do a radio interview with me and Bob Papa for the radio broadcast on Sunday. I can't sit here in good conscience and feel right about talking about who might replace him after the year. I just don't feel right about it. That's not an organizational decision. That's a John decision. Be mad at me, you can be mad at me. That's fine. But I don't feel right about that as a human being.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And well, you look at it, right? And he did make, I think, a valid points early. And I will say this. No matter what your record is, right? It's no such thing as halfway through the season, because of the 17 games. But this is the halfway point through the season. You have enough data to analyze everything, right? The 7-2 teams in the league, it's not just because of one player. It's not because of the coach. It's not because of GM. It's a collective.
Yep, it's a team.
It's a collective.
The organization
you can blame
is a
maybe
team.
one game on a player or a team or the players or the coach and decisions and stuff like that. But at this point, right, Joe Shane has not called one play for the Giants, right? Daboll has not caught or dropped one pass or tackled anybody, right? And there's no player that has called the play or said this player needs to be on this team.
Correct.
It's a collective effort at this point. You can't single out one player, one phase, or one part of this team to say this is the reason why the Giants are 2-7. It's a collective effort. Everybody takes the blame for either your success or your failures throughout the year and throughout any time of the year. First game of the season, maybe one particular part of the season, you say this game, okay, cool. This play, okay, cool, right? You could probably say that, right? Oh, the defense gave up this many yards. Okay, you could blame it on defense. But at this point in the season, the halfway point, it's a collective, right? So the Giants have to figure out a way collectively to get out of this, whatever you want to call it, slump, this downhill, trend that they have going on, because they haven't been performing good lately, John. And that's very concerning to me. The trend is going down, because at one point the Giants were 2-4 and we were very optimistic because they were trending upwards. But now they're not trending that way. And that's not on the offense, not on the defense, not on the coach, not on GM. It's collectively. It's on everyone involved.
All right, let's wrap things up with Brian in Kansas City. Brian, what's going on?
Jackson Dart makes me so horny.
All right, Brian, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. I'm glad you're excited.
Wow. That was interesting. What was that, John? What the heck was that? Oh, my God.
Oh, this is all going to be edited out on the recorded version anyway, so I feel okay laughing about it.
That was interesting.
Oh, man. All right. You guys made me laugh. That's great. I appreciate it. Don't call back. All right. Thanks for being with us, everybody. He gets us excited, too, Brian. Just maybe not the same way. All right, JC, give me your final thoughts on the Giants-Bears. Keys to victory, however you want to look at it.
I mean, it comes a point of season. Like I said, it's the halfway point of the season, man. The X's and O's and all of that stuff, the coaching, the GM and all of that, it comes down to the players, man. Got to have some pride, guys. You guys are going out there. You got to put some good film out there, guys. It's and defensively specifically, guys got to stop the run. The good players, the great players for the Giants have to start playing that way. The young guys have to have that, that opportunistic mentality. I was an undrafted guy, man. I feel like I was so eager to play defense. Was I perfect? No, I was not. But the effort that I gave was unquestionable, and I was able to stack a career off of it. Young guys, give that effort. Older guys, show them how to do it. And stand up to this team because Chicago, they will run the ball 40 times. I said that the 49ers game, and they did. This is the same way. You have to have a physical mentality, and it all starts up front. So step up, guys. Have some pride.
Look, I'll say this quick because I'm not on tomorrow. You can hear me on Big Blue Kickoff Live Saturday, 7 a.m. Me and Malusis will talk about this, and then we'll have pregame 11 o'clock on Sunday. Look, to me, I got 3 simple things for you, all right? You already hit one. Stop the run. Ben Johnson will run this ball down your throat all game long if you let him. He did it with the Lions when he was there. He'll do it with the Bears. He will run it down your throat all game, and he might have 2 different backs to give 20 carries to each if he wants to. So, yes, the weather might be bad too, by the way. So stop the run first and foremost. And then I'll fold my other 2 into 1. Win the explosive play battle. The Bears want to beat you with explosive plays, and they will give up explosive plays. If you can limit them and get some on your end,
got a chance.
You got a chance. And I guess the third one I'll do is just you can't be -2 in takeaways. All right, the Bears have been doing that to teams all year long. They're plus 13 this year with 19 takeaways. The Giants have done a pretty good job of protecting the football. They have not done a very good job of taking the football away. So, at the very least, if you can't take it away, at least don't give it away. Try to be even in this game if you can. Win the big play battle. Stop the run. I think you'll be in pretty good shape.
I like it.
All right. For Jonathan Casillas, I'm John Schmeelk. For Brian, where was he calling from again? Anyway, not important. In Cincinnati, is that where he was? Kansas City? Sounds like he's having a good time. We will talk to you next time on Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. We're in the Hackensack Meridian Health Podcast Studio. Keep getting better. We'll see you next time, everybody.